go. All thanks to our test bench, baby. Hey everyone, Digital David here. Today on this episode of Newegg Now, I'm going to be benchmarking my test bench. Shout out to Newegg for sponsoring today's video and Cooler Master for sending us the case, our power supply, and our cooler. If you're interested in any of the products you see here, the links to them will be in the video description. First, let's go over all the parts and components. So all the parts and components are readily available on Newegg minus the GPU, but maybe you'll have success winning a shuffle. So without a GPU, our build total comes in right under $1,000, and you can see the nice breakdown right here for all the parts and components of this build. So first up, we have the MasterFrame 700 custom test bench right here, so you can use it as a test bench or an open air case. It's got two different configurations, which is really cool, and it's VESA mount compatible, so you could mount this to a wall if you want or something along those lines. Next up, you can see for $100 we're using the Corsair Vengeance 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM. I just had that laying around, so that's what we're going to use for this test bench build. That's going to be perfect. Next up, you can see we have an 850 watt Cooler Master power supply. Very happy with that. Then you can see we have this random Samsung 256 gigabyte SSD. This is going to be perfect for my test bench. Again, I just have an extra one laying around. Following that up with our Cooler Master Hyper H412R compact CPU air cooler. That's what we'll be using to cool our CPU, which we'll find out what that is in just a second. Next up, I have an extra Lexar 2.5 inch 240 gigabyte SSD lying around that we're going to use as well. And we're using the MSI Z590A Pro motherboard. They have multiple options of this board available, so find the one that fits your budget. Or if it's not the right one for you, there's plenty of other motherboards you can choose from. I really just like MSI boards, and for my particular needs, this one was the board that I was most interested in. Next up, you can see the CPU we're using right here is the i5-11400. This has an F variant as well if you don't want the integrated graphics. But at the time of this video, I believe the F variant cost even more money than the integrated graphics. And if you can't get a hold of a GPU, this is going to be the way to go. For my particular build, we'll be using the F variant and an RTX 3060. Now let's go ahead, let's get our test bench built. So I'm really happy with how everything turned out as you see the build up close. This case is ultra super premium, whatever you want to call it. It's overkill for what I'll be using it for, but it is top notch, high quality construction steel, and we have a really nice tempered glass panel. So if for some reason I don't want to use this as a test bench someday, I can reconfigure this case, put the tempered glass panel on it. I can even mount it on a wall if I want. But I'm very happy with the height of this, how easy it is to get to all the parts and components, and it's really just high quality construction and material. So it just looks really good, and it's kind of an art piece in and of itself. But I kind of hodgepodge together some of the parts and components here. You can obviously swap them in and out. I'll be swapping them in or out all the time. In this case, is really easy to get access to everything that you need to change. I could tidy up the cable management, but since I will be swapping out all these parts and components, I didn't really feel like I needed to spend any time doing that, but to each their own. Now let's go ahead, let's look at some of the benchmarks. So first up, we're looking at CPU Z. I'm gonna click on each individual tab, and you can pause the screen if you wanna look at anything else in more detail, but you can learn more about our CPU right here. So check it out. Then we have our motherboard, memory, nothing for SPD, graphics, our RTX 3060, and then our bench test marks right here. So first up with CPU Z, we got a single thread score of 582.2, and we got a multi-thread score of 4,337.9. Now you can see our Cinebench results right here. First up, we got a multi-core score of 10,193 and a single core score of 1,402. You can see complete breakdown and ranking of our multi-core score right here. We finished 4 out of 12. Not too bad. And now you can see our breakdown of our single core score, and we finished 2 out of 12. And you can see all the comparable CPUs. Now you can see our Geekbench 5 results right here. We got a single core score of 1572 and a multi-core score of 7701. Here's a breakdown of our system information. And now you can see a breakdown of our single core performance right here. All the individual results. And now you can see the breakdown of our multi-core score right here and all the same results. Now we're looking at the benchmark results for the Samsung drive that I'm using. Just a miscellaneous M.2 drive from Samsung from a pre-built PC that I threw into this test bench. And I'm actually pleasantly surprised. The performance is on par with the 970, at least in regards to our read speeds. Our write speeds are slower, but that's typically the case when I conduct these tests anyway. So check that out. I'm shocked. It's actually a lot faster and a better drive than I was anticipating in regards to just the benchmarking right here. So we got read scores of 3440 and write scores of 2341. Now I just wanted to pull up the MSI Dragon Center really quickly so you guys can see the hardware monitoring right here. So you can see our CPU usage, frequency, our core temp at idle, and our socket temp at idle, and our CPU fan speed. With this cooler, I'm actually pleasantly surprised with how good of a job it's doing. I know it's an open air case, so we shouldn't really have any issues anyways. But at our idle temps, it's around 32 to 35 degrees Celsius. And then under full max load, we're at around 70 to 71 degrees Celsius. Now I thought we'd take a quick look at the MSI Bios settings for this motherboard and build. So first up, you can see we have our settings in easy mode, and we can choose our system status if we want. You can see all the different options that we have right here. Next up, we can select the advanced option. You can see so many different sub-menu options we can go to under the advanced section. Then we have our boot options right here. We can change our boot order as we desire and priorities. And then we can save and exit. Next up, we have our OC settings right here. This is helpful if you want to change your RAM frequency and speed. So for us, you can see we have the correct frequency for our RAM. You will need most likely to enable that, the XMP profile, and change it as desired right here. And if you're into overclocking, you'll have other options you can tweak with this particular board. And then we have our M Flash section. So this does feature BIOS flashback via USB, and you can activate that right here within the BIOS settings if you want. You may have noticed we have other system information right at our fingertips. And then we can jump back to easy mode instead of advanced. And you can see here, we can easily go to CPU, our memory, our storage, our fan info, and we have a help section. And then we have even more options down here. And you can see we can monitor our hardware just like we were doing from our Windows OS with MSI software. So we have our fan control settings. And you can see our CPU temps and everything right from within the BIOS settings. So it wouldn't be a benchmarking review without some gaming. So we got Fortnite pulled up on the screen right here. You can see the results that we're getting with this build. So our GPU is about 98%, our CPU 64%. You can see our RAM usage as well. Our current FPS around 70 FPS, 1920, 1080p. Everything looks pretty good. A little bit of sputtering, but not too bad. Smooth gameplay with our RTX 3060. Come on. Come on. Got him! Let's go! Oh, close. Come on. Come on. Yeah, we'll take that assist. Yeah, we'll take another one. Let's go, fan. Also, guys, we're playing on epic settings right now, too. So I'm happy. Got him! Got him! Let's go. All thanks to our test bench, baby. So overall, very happy with how this build came together. Obviously, in the future, I'll be swapping in and out the parts and components to test around here. So really excited to have this to use and to film with. This is a really cool case. That was probably the hardest part of the build, though, was assembling this. The instructions were okay and no issues at all, but it wasn't the easiest process. And also, someday we are able to convert this if we want to use it with the included tempered glass. That would be a really cool piece to have, and you can actually mount it. It's VESA mount compatible. So that's a neat feature and option that we have with this test bench going forward. But overall, super flexible. You can really configure it however you want. You can mount accessories on the wings as well. Plenty of room and space to get at all the parts and components you would want to swap and change and test out. So overall, very pleased and super happy with this build. Well, that concludes our video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget the product link will be in our video description below. Please go ahead, check it out, and do your shopping from there. Any purchase made through that link helps support our channel at no additional cost to you. So we're really grateful and thankful for all of your support. While you're at it, can you go ahead and hit that like button for us? And subscribe to our channel. We have new content coming out daily, and we don't want you to miss anything. Please go ahead and give us a follow online and make it a clean sweep. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, Discord. You can message us on WeChat, check out our website, and join our free newsletter. Thank you guys so much for being here. Don't forget, new content daily, and we can't wait to see you in our next video.